which is itself enduring. We are all visitors to this time.
Queen Elizabeth's heartfelt final wish stunned everyone. She left everything to Lady Louise, sending Camilla's relatives into a furious meltdown. Why did the Queen make this choice? Could it spark lasting royal drama? Will Lady Louise's inheritance shift family dynamics forever? Join us as we explore the royal decisions that shook the palace to its core, the royal who earned a powerful legacy. Before discussing the inheritance, before examining what was left behind, who received it, and why it caused such a strong reaction, it is important to first understand the woman at the center of it all. Many people around the world have heard very little about Lady Louise Windsor, and that has not happened by accident. Her life has largely remained away from the spotlight, and that quiet approach has defined her place within the royal family. Lady Louise Alice Elizabeth Mary Mountbatten Windsor was born on November 8, 2003. Her arrival into the world was extremely difficult and frightening. Her mother, Sophie, Countess of Wessex, suddenly suffered a serious medical emergency known as a severe placental abruption. This condition required immediate action. Doctors rushed Sophie to Frimley Park Hospital, where medical teams worked quickly to save both mother and child. At that moment, Prince Edward, Louise's father, was thousands of miles away in Mauritius. Because of the distance, he could not arrive in time for the birth. Louise had to be delivered through an emergency cesarean section. During the procedure, both Sophie and her newborn daughter lost a dangerous amount of blood. Louise was born prematurely and needed urgent care. She was quickly transferred to the neonatal unit at St. George's Hospital in London. In those early days, she remained under careful medical supervision as doctors worked to stabilize her condition. The first days of her life were fragile and uncertain as the small infant fought to survive. For Queen Elizabeth, this moment carried deep emotional weight. Her youngest son's wife had come dangerously close to death, and her newborn granddaughter was far from home in a hospital incubator, struggling through her earliest days. Even though Queen Elizabeth had spent decades facing enormous national and global challenges, moments involving family were deeply personal. Watching these events unfold left a lasting impression. Those early experiences helped shape the quiet but strong bond that later developed between the Queen and Lady Louise. The protective feelings formed during those difficult days remained present as Louise grew older. During her childhood, Louise also faced additional medical challenges. She was born with esotropia, a condition that causes the eyes to misalign. Because of this, she required several corrective surgeries while she was still young. These medical procedures were an important part of her early life, and through each stage of treatment, Queen Elizabeth closely followed her progress. Over time, their connection became stronger. By the year 2019, palace insiders began quietly speaking about the special relationship between Queen Elizabeth and Lady Louise. According to those familiar with their interactions, the Queen spent long periods of time with Louise, particularly during stays at Balmoral. These visits allowed them to share private family moments far away from public attention. Observers described the bond as warm and gentle. This was especially notable because Queen Elizabeth was widely known for her reserved personality and controlled public image. Yet with Louise, the relationship appeared relaxed and affectionate. Reports from within the palace even suggested that Louise held a particularly special place among the Queen's grandchildren. Despite the presence of older and more publicly recognized members of the royal family, including Prince William and Prince Harry, Louise quietly developed one of the closest relationships with her grandmother. Prince William, as the future King of England, carries enormous responsibility within the monarchy. Prince Harry spent many years as one of the most popular and widely recognized members of the royal family. Even so, insiders suggested that Louise's calm personality and sincere affection created a unique connection with Queen Elizabeth. Part of this closeness came from Louise's natural simplicity. As a child, she did not fully understand the enormous role her grandmother held in the world. One day during her early years, Louise returned home with a question for her mother. She had been hearing people say that her grandmother was the Queen. Confused, she asked Sophie about it. Sophie asked how this made her feel. Louise answered that she did not understand. To her, the woman she spent time with was simply her grandmother. She saw someone who sat beside her, watched television with her, and shared ordinary family moments. She did not see a monarch or a powerful figure leading an institution. She simply saw a loving family member. For Queen Elizabeth, who had spent her entire life surrounded by people seeking influence, status, titles, or access to royal privilege, this pure and uncomplicated relationship carried great meaning. Louise approached her without expectation or ambition, and that honesty strengthened their connection. Another important relationship in Louise's life developed with her grandfather, Prince Philip. On April 9, 2021, Prince Philip passed away at Windsor Castle at the age of 99. His funeral quickly became one of the most widely watched royal events in recent years. During the ceremony, one powerful visual moment captured public attention. Two fell ponies named Balmoral Nevis and Not Lost Storm stood at the entrance to Windsor Castle beside a dark green carriage. Placed on the carriage seat were Prince Philip's personal items: his driving cap, his leather gloves, his whip, and a small red container filled with sugar lumps for his ponies. These items represented something deeply personal. Prince Philip had spent more than 50 years devoted to the sport of carriage driving. After arthritis ended his polo career in 1971, he turned his energy toward competitive carriage driving. Over the years, he represented Great Britain in 6 world championships and 3 European championships. Even as he grew older, he remained active in the sport and continued competing well into his 80s. Carriage driving became far more than a pastime for him. It became the central passion of his life after polo. Prince Philip chose to share this passion with Lady Louise. During her teenage years, he personally taught her the skills of carriage driving. The two spent many hours together practicing in Windsor Great Park. They traveled through wooded paths and open fields as Philip guided and coached his granddaughter. Their time together allowed Louise to develop strong skills in the sport, while also strengthening their personal bond. In 2019, Prince Philip attended the Royal Windsor Horse Show to watch Louise compete in the private driving singles event. She finished in 3rd place. Those who witnessed the moment observed that Philip was extremely proud of her performance. When Prince Philip passed away, he left Louise the carriages, the ponies, and the entire tradition of carriage driving that had shaped decades of his life. This inheritance carried great meaning because it represented a legacy built through dedication and competition. Louise continued to honor that gift. In 2022, only months after the death of Queen Elizabeth, she drove one of Prince Philip's carriages during a parade at the Royal Windsor Horse Show. Queen Elizabeth, watching from the stands, was reportedly moved as she saw her granddaughter continuing the tradition. By 2024, Louise had progressed even further in the sport. She competed at the British National Carriage Driving Championships and placed 2nd in her class. She competed using the royal surname Mountbatten Windsor, showing clearly that she was not only receiving her grandfather's equipment, but also carrying forward the competitive spirit he had built over many decades. This inheritance from Prince Philip was the first major legacy passed to Lady Louise. It represented trust, shared passion, and a powerful family connection. It also quietly set the stage for everything that would happen next. The truth behind Queen Elizabeth's inheritance. This is the point where many people become confused, and that confusion plays a very important role in the entire story of Queen Elizabeth's inheritance. Many people imagine something very different from reality when they think about the wealth connected to the British monarchy. When most people think about Queen Elizabeth's fortune, they picture the great royal residences such as Buckingham Palace, Windsor Castle, and Kensington Palace. They also imagine the crown jewels and the enormous estates that stretch across different parts of Britain. In many minds, all of these properties and treasures seem to belong directly to the Queen herself. It creates the impression that she personally controlled a royal fortune worth around $28 billion in property and assets. However, the truth is very different. Almost none of those famous properties were actually Queen Elizabeth's personal possessions. The Crown Estate, which includes Buckingham Palace, Windsor Castle, Kensington Palace, and thousands of acres of land, is not owned by the monarch as a private individual. Instead, it is managed by a public board and belongs to the monarchy as an institution. This means the properties exist for the crown, not for the person who happens to wear the crown at a particular time. Because of this structure, those royal estates were never part of Queen Elizabeth's personal will. When she passed away, the Crown Estate did not go through any inheritance process connected to her private wealth. Everything simply passed automatically to the next monarch, King Charles, just as it would have passed to any successor who followed her on the throne. Queen Elizabeth's personal wealth was a completely different matter. At the time of her death, her private fortune was estimated to be about £500 million. This was the wealth she personally owned and could control. It included important private properties that had been part of the royal family for generations, but were not connected to the crown estate. Among the most valuable of these properties was Balmoral Castle in Scotland. Balmoral was valued at around £80 million and had been privately purchased by the royal family many generations ago. Because of that history, it belonged directly to the Queen as a private asset. Another major property was the Sandringham estate in Norfolk. Sandringham was worth approximately £250 million and, like Balmoral, had been privately owned by the royal family for generations. This estate was also part of Queen Elizabeth's personal holdings. Beyond real estate, her private belongings included many other valuable assets. One of the most important parts of her collection was her personal jewelry. Queen Elizabeth owned more than 300 pieces of fine jewelry that were completely separate from the crown jewels. These were items she personally collected, wore, and treasured during her long reign. Her private assets also included a collection of racehorses, which had long been one of her greatest passions. In addition, she owned a personal collection of cars and held investment portfolios that, when adjusted for growth over time, may have exceeded £100 million. There was also a special financial rule that affected how this wealth was passed on. Under an agreement made with the British government in 1993, transfers of wealth between monarchs are exempt from the standard 40% inheritance tax. This rule means that when a monarch passes personal wealth to the next monarch, the transfer can happen without the heavy tax that would normally apply to such large estates. Because of this agreement, when Queen Elizabeth's personal wealth passed to King Charles, it did so in full. The assets moved directly to him without the usual inheritance tax deduction. However, there is another important part of this story. Even though the main transfer of wealth moved to King Charles, Queen Elizabeth still had the power to decide what would happen to specific items, properties, and possessions before her death. She could make gifts during her lifetime, adjust parts of her will, and determine how certain personal belongings would be distributed among members of her family. In the final months of her life, reports suggest that she carefully reviewed these decisions. Sources indicated that she spent time examining many of her most treasured possessions and deciding who among her heirs should receive them. These choices created quiet but powerful conversations inside royal circles. There were whispers about last-minute adjustments and decisions that surprised several members of the family. One area created more reactions than any other. Queen Elizabeth's personal jewelry became the center of intense attention. As mentioned earlier, her private jewelry collection included more than 300 pieces. These were not the crown jewels kept at the Tower of London. Instead, they were the items she personally owned and wore during her lifetime. Reports indicated that Queen Elizabeth chose to leave a large portion of this personal jewelry collection to Catherine, the Princess of Wales. The value of the pieces reportedly given to Catherine was estimated at around £110 million. This decision was striking because the jewelry was not passed to Camilla, who became Queen Consort after Queen Elizabeth's death. Camilla had spent many years navigating a very difficult public path within the royal family. She had lived through strong public criticism, the lasting memory of Princess Diana, and a long period of controversy before eventually becoming accepted within the monarchy. By the time Queen Elizabeth passed away, Camilla had reached the position of Queen Consort beside King Charles. Yet the Queen's personal jewelry collection, which carried deep personal meaning, was reported to have been left to Catherine instead. According to insiders, Catherine had long been seen as a favorite within the royal family. This perception added even more attention to the decision. The choice appeared to reflect Queen Elizabeth's personal judgment about the people closest to her. Through inheritance, she was not only distributing possessions, but also expressing her private view of the family around her. The message was powerful, even without direct explanation. At the same time, the difference in personal wealth between individuals added another layer to the situation. Camilla's personal net worth has been estimated at around $5 million, which is very small compared with the large fortunes connected to the royal family. Although she has access to vast resources through King Charles, her direct personal inheritance from Queen Elizabeth appeared to be extremely limited. Meanwhile, Catherine received one of the most valuable collections connected to the Queen's personal life. Lady Louise Windsor received possessions that had strong emotional importance connected to Prince Philip. Outside the central line of the royal family, Camilla's own children from her first marriage, Tom Parker Bowles and Laura Lopes, watched these events unfold from a distance. For them, the decisions surrounding Queen Elizabeth's inheritance happened entirely outside their reach, leaving them as observers to a deeply significant moment within the House of Windsor. Quiet divide within the royal family. Tom Parker Bowles is Camilla's son from her first marriage to Andrew Parker Bowles. He is widely known as a food critic and author. Since his mother became Queen Consort, he has also appeared more often at events held at Buckingham Palace. Camilla's daughter, Laura Lopes, has experienced a similar change. As her mother's status in the royal family rose, she too began appearing more frequently in royal circles. However, there is a basic problem that palace invitations and social appearances cannot change. Tom and Laura are not part of the royal bloodline. They do not hold royal titles. Within the formal structure of the British monarchy, they are the stepchildren of the king. They may be present at family occasions and public events, but in the hereditary system that governs succession and inheritance, they are not considered part of the royal line. Lady Louise Windsor stands in a completely different position. She is the granddaughter of Queen Elizabeth II and Prince Philip. She is 17th in line to the throne and carries the Mountbatten-Windsor family name. In both formal and informal ways, she is a direct member of the royal line that has shaped Britain for generations. Some European media outlets have suggested that Tom Parker Bowles could receive benefits from King Charles's future will. This possibility is often linked to the influence Queen Camilla may have on her husband. Such an outcome cannot be ruled out. King Charles will decide the contents of his own will, and Camilla, as queen, naturally has influence in his life. Yet there is an important distinction. What Charles may decide to do with his estate is separate from the decisions Queen Elizabeth made about her own. Elizabeth's choices were personal and carefully considered. In those decisions, Camilla's children were not favored in any significant way. Camilla is aware of this reality. Tom is also aware of it. According to royal insiders, the sense of disappointment surrounding this situation has slowly grown over time. This raises an important question. Is Camilla's frustration about the inheritance itself, or about what the inheritance reveals? What it suggests is that Queen Elizabeth never fully embraced Camilla as part of the family in the same way she embraced other members. Her relationship with Catherine, Princess of Wales, was warm and supportive. She also showed deep affection for Lady Louise Windsor. That difference carries emotional weight that no piece of jewelry or property can replace. To understand Lady Louise's place in the inheritance story, it is necessary to look at her parents and the quiet respect they earned from Queen Elizabeth. Prince Edward is the youngest child of the late Queen. In a family that often attracted intense media attention, Edward lived a much calmer life. During the years when Prince Charles's personal relationships filled newspaper headlines, and when Prince Andrew's controversies shook public confidence in the monarchy, Edward kept a low profile. Princess Anne also followed her own independent path. Edward, however, focused on building a steady family life. He married Sophie Rhys-Jones in 1999. Together, they raised their children largely away from constant public attention. Edward carried out his royal duties consistently, without drama and without seeking publicity. Sophie developed a close relationship with Queen Elizabeth. Many royal observers described her as the Queen's favorite daughter-in-law. After leaving her career in public relations in 2002, she dedicated herself fully to royal service. Over time, she supported more than 70 charitable organizations. She gained a reputation for being discreet, warm, dependable, and loyal. This loyalty was not simply for public display. It was consistent and genuine. Queen Elizabeth valued this quality greatly. In 2023, King Charles granted Prince Edward the title Duke of Edinburgh. Many observers interpreted this decision as recognition of the dedication shown by Edward and Sophie over many years. It also signaled the trust they had earned within the monarchy. Their children reflected these same values. Lady Louise Windsor lived a life that was far more ordinary than many people expect from a royal family member. She worked at a garden center. She attended university and focused on her studies. She also trained in the Army Reserve. In many ways, she lived like a typical young adult rather than a princess. Sophie explained publicly that Louise and her younger brother James would likely need to build their own careers instead of relying on royal privilege. In a royal family where entitlement has sometimes created serious problems, this attitude was unusual. Queen Elizabeth noticed this difference and respected it. While Prince William and Prince Harry were frequently in the public eye, Louise spent much of her time studying. She attended St. George's School at Windsor Castle before moving on to Sreet, Mary's School in Ascot for her A-level studies. Her subjects included English, history, politics, and drama. This combination of studies suggested a serious interest in understanding public life and communication. Shortly after Queen Elizabeth's death in September 2022, Louise began studying English at the University of St. Andrews in Scotland. This university also holds historical significance because it was where Prince William met Catherine 2 decades earlier. Louise continued to shape her own identity during her university years. In 2024, she joined the Tayforth University Officers Training Corps, a British Army Reserve unit. Images later appeared showing her in military training gear, with face paint and a helmet marked with the Windsor name, participating in exercises alongside other cadets. By 2025, she had become an officer cadet in the Army Reserve. Her path reflects several strong influences from her grandparents. She became skilled in carriage driving, a sport closely associated with Prince Philip. She also chose to pursue military training, which echoes Queen Elizabeth's early wartime service. When Elizabeth was 16, she began her first official wartime role by inspecting troops. At 18, she joined the Auxiliary Territorial Service, becoming the first female royal to serve actively in the armed forces. Louise's development shows a similar blend of discipline and dedication. Royal commentator Richard Fitzwilliams noted that she appears to carry qualities from both grandparents. From Elizabeth, she shows a quiet nature and a strong sense of duty. From Philip, she seems to share competitiveness and enjoyment of physical challenges. Today, there are only 4 working royals under the age of 70. The future of the monarchy depends heavily on younger members who are willing to accept responsibility and public service. With Prince Harry no longer performing royal duties and the institution facing constant public examination, the importance of dependable younger royals has increased. Louise has not tried to attract attention or publicity. Instead, she has focused on preparation and steady personal development. Meanwhile, discussions about inheritance continue behind the scenes. After Queen Elizabeth's death in September 2022, the distribution of her possessions became more than a simple financial matter. Each gift also revealed something about the late Queen's personal loyalties and relationships. Attention has now shifted toward King Charles's future will, which remains unfinished. Reports suggest that Queen Camilla is involved in conversations about how Charles may organize his estate. According to insiders, her priorities appear to focus on 2 main issues. The first is the possibility of reducing any inheritance that might eventually go to Prince Harry, reflecting the continuing distance between Harry, his wife, and the rest of the royal family. The second is the hope that her son Tom Parker Bowles might receive some benefit from Charles's generosity, balancing what he did not receive from Queen Elizabeth, the quiet strength that earned respect. In a royal family, where titles often attract attention and sometimes competition, this decision stood out clearly. Titles within the monarchy can represent closeness to the throne, and they often shape how people inside and outside the palace see each member of the family. For many individuals, that closeness is something to pursue carefully. Queen Camilla spent many years moving steadily toward the position she now holds as Queen Consort. Her journey showed how important royal status can become within the structure of the monarchy. Louise, however, walked in the opposite direction. By stepping away from a higher title, she created a surprising result. Instead of losing influence, she gained something stronger and more lasting. People both inside and outside the palace began to see her as someone sincere and grounded. Her decision showed clearly that she was not focused on status or personal advantage. This simple choice quietly built credibility and respect around her. Imagine how that must have appeared to Queen Elizabeth. The monarch had spent her entire reign serving her country with duty and patience. Seeing a young granddaughter refuse a powerful title would have carried deep meaning. At the same time, some other members of the family were increasing their public profiles and asking for greater recognition. Louise instead worked at a garden center and continued living her daily life with quiet determination. Royal observers have often pointed out an interesting pattern within the British monarchy. Those who do not actively reach for power sometimes end up receiving the greatest trust. It may seem unexpected, yet history shows that humility often earns lasting confidence from the crown. Queen Elizabeth understood this reality very well, because her own life was defined by service rather than ambition. Louise's decision to decline the HRH therefore carried significance beyond a simple title choice. It reflected her natural character rather than careful calculation. Genuine humility inside royal circles is extremely rare, and that authenticity stands out clearly. Another important reality also surrounds the legacy of Queen Elizabeth. The inheritance connected to her estate has not been fully settled, and it may remain complicated for years. Wills involving royal properties, historical collections, financial investments, and items of national significance require time and detailed legal work before every element becomes clear. Because of this, the exact details of what Louise has already received, what remains protected in trust, and what may pass to her later are not completely public. Even so, several facts are widely understood. Queen Elizabeth II's most personal choices. Let us step back and see the full picture. Queen Elizabeth II reigned for 70 years. She outlasted 15 prime ministers. She navigated world wars, constitutional crises, and some of the most turbulent chapters of modern British history. By any measure, she was one of the most consequential figures of the 20th and 21st centuries. In her final months, when she turned her attention to her estate, to the question of what she would leave behind and to whom, she made choices that were unmistakably personal. She chose Kate, the woman who would one day be queen, and gave her a treasure worth $110 million. She supported Philip's choice of Louise and honored the bond they had built together. She spent quiet hours with Louise and James, watching children's television and sharing the kind of ordinary warmth that the palace rarely permits. She did not leave her most intimate gifts to the people with the most power. She left them to the people she loved most, and perhaps that is the most human thing about her. Beneath the crown, beneath centuries of protocol, tradition, and duty, there was a grandmother who had favorites. She remembered which granddaughter helped Princess Charlotte draw rabbits. She sat in the stands at the Royal Windsor Horse Show with tears running down her face as Louise drove Philip's carriage one final time. Queen Elizabeth could not speak freely in life about who she loved most. The monarchy does not permit that kind of candor. But in death, through the quiet architecture of her estate and her gifts, she said everything. She said it with carriages. She said it with jewelry. She said it with the choice of who sat beside her in those final private years. She said it loudly enough that Camilla's family heard it perfectly. Here is the question to consider. In a family defined by hierarchy, blood, and centuries of inherited power, what actually earns loyalty? What makes a queen or a king or an elderly grandmother decide the fate of her estate? Is it a title? Camilla has a title. She is Queen Consort of the United Kingdom. Is it proximity? Tom Parker BS is at palace events regularly. He is present. Or is it something simpler? Something like a garden center job, a tearful horse show, and a lifetime of showing up as yourself quietly demonstrates. This is the story of Lady Louise Windsor, and something tells us we are only in the early chapters. If this story surprised you, if there is a part of the royal family you thought you understood, but now see differently, drop a comment. Consider what stood out most. Was it the jewelry decision, the carriage inheritance, Louise's choice to refuse her royal title, or something else entirely? If you want to go deeper into the royal family's inheritance battles and the stories the palace never shares, stay tuned. This particular story is far from over.